I guess first thing up would be a little bit of a history of how you got into paintball and how, I guess, the tournament scene started for you.
Is that right? Well, the history, I go back to the beginning of paintball in 1981, 82. A good friend of mine, Hayes Knoll, is one of the creators of this whole sport, along with Bob Guernsey. They formed paintball as a joke, as a means of settling an argument with city boys and country boys. Hayes was from Nashville, considered country. Bob was from New York, considered the city. They had a going argument over this. They put together a very informal game on a napkin, and it was on one-on-one type of scenario. Lasted hours, 4, 5, 6 hours, and they played up in New Hampshire. It was the first place that paintball was played as a sport. Little do they know. They came back and told their friends in New York and also down here. I was part of that conversation at that time, and they came up with the idea of putting together licensed dealers to put together across the country and try to put the game together in a regimented form with some continuities with rules and looks and safety procedures. And I was able to secure one of those franchises through knowing Hayes and Bob in the very early days. And I have to say we were probably one of the pioneers of the whole sport. We did not have much to work from. We didn't have any safety rules or any kind of procedures in operating games. And I guess we made these up as we went. And as we matured in it over the course of the years, we started writing a little bit more about it, educating other individuals on the sport, and that's how we got into paintball, just by the sheer lark of it, for the fun of it. It was no means of making a living from it, by no means. It's just a recreational activity that we thought would be kind of fun to do. And I've been in it for 13 years now. Still running field operations, retail operations, and then of course we do these tournaments and friends. The Masters, that's a little bit, again, when we were with NSG, National Survival Games, being a partner franchise member in that, Deborah Dion was the public relations director for NSG, and Hayes and Bob and herself and myself, we put together a series of regional competitions that would culminate into a national championship. And we had different regions around the country, and they had state playoffs, and then went to regional playoffs, and then the winners.
But I'll just remember anyway, sure. I guess. But
we were doing NSG championships in the early days because they were broken into franchises across the country, and those franchises had state championships. Then they went into regional championships, and the regional championships went into a national championship. We played our first one in New Hampshire. I think there were 6 to 8 teams that competed in that. There was 15 on a team. We were playing, I believe, 1.5 hour to 2 hour games on huge pieces of properties, 5, 6 acres. We had 3 judges per field. Judges, marshals, officials were only used to keep up with time and make sure that safety procedures were in place, such as goggles and what have you, and make sure that no one got hurt. And if so, we were able to summons help to help us out. Officials were not necessary for the calling people out because the game is a game of honor, a game of sportsmanship. If you get hit, you call yourself out. There's no need for a marshal, and if you feel that you've been hit, you ask one of your mates to help you out. You did your checks yourselves. We did these for a long time. I started out as a judge, went into a head judge, went into an ultimate judge capacity. Again, not having any of these titles, we just had more expertise in it than anyone else, so we just kind of came to the top in knowing what we were doing from previous years. NSG started making and manufacturing their Splatmaster pistols, and they started to lose interest in the dealership network. They wanted to go strictly manufacturing, and when I saw this occurring, I went to California and got with Marty Tripes. At that time he was with JT Goggles, now he's with Scott, of course. And I also got with Ross Alexander, which at the time was Line SI Bushmasters skirmish guns. And sat down with them and we brainstormed for 2-3 days in California, trying to come up with a venue for everyone in the industry. At that time there must have been about a dozen different manufacturers and distributors, still very young. This is in 1988. Tried to get together and formulate a true international championships for all vendors, all manufacturers, all teams of any group or any franchise to be a part of. Came back to Nashville. This is where I live, grew up here. Found this location. I was aware of it. Put a proposal together, and we started doing the Masters here in 1989. 6 years later, here we are still, same location. It's a beautiful location, as you can tell that. And the teams have been growing over the past years. The manufacturers are growing as well, and the maturity of the sport has grown immensely in the last 6 years. This is just a perfect location to see that happen physically, and to see everything happen like that. And that's pretty much how the Masters was created, and that's why we're still here.
How do you view, actually, I guess, the formation of the NPPL and sort of the splitting off, I guess, of the pro teams? I mean, it's...
Well, this industry is a cottage industry. It doesn't take a whole lot for anyone to get into it. A lot of folks are still working out of the back of their pickup truck. The splits and different groups and leagues, I guess, is just a natural course of any organization, be it paintball or be it baseball or anything else. The pros have got a agenda that they feel that they need to serve themselves and try to grow the sport in a more professional played manner. That makes up a very small percentage of the community of paintball. I would like to serve the majority of the community, which is still, I feel, for the recreational of it. Very few people make a living in this industry. Most of them do this for part of their living, but they still have other activities, jobs to oversee and take care of their day-to-day. So I feel it's just it's just a healthy sign that the sport is still growing. It's still showing maturity. It's growth out of its adolescence, and now we're just trying to understand how to be an adult.
From looking at it from outside, I see one of the problems with the paintball industry is that the only source of revenue to actually put on a tournament is from the players. It's not like basketball or football or baseball where you've got a spectator involvement that can actually help support the industry. That's not there yet.
No, again, I feel like that's where we are right now, trying to go from that adolescence into maturity. If you see Automags and the View Loaders and the larger manufacturers, the PMIs, they're showing a more professional look than they did 2 years ago. Once we start showing our presence like this, the people such as you mentioned will probably be looking at us a little bit more seriously. And for the last 8 to 10 years, the outside community has always looked at us as a fad. Oh, it's just a drop in the pan. It's going to happen like a frisbee, and it's going to go away. But I feel that the longer we stay in here, the longer that we persist, mature, show ourselves in strength, I think our sport will grow, and we'll have some of those outside venues coming in.
Because I guess one of the things I see, and it's not so much as much a problem here as it is in Australia, is the actual cost of attending a tournament by a team, particularly an amateur team.
Yeah.
It's in our country, it's very expensive because the cost of paint is more, and the distances are quite large, and we only have a small turnout. So, but I'm sure even here, it's a factor that weighs heavily in the minds of most teams is the cost. And of course, I guess the problem with that is that there is no other means of generating revenue particularly for a tournament of this size and quality. It's very difficult.
Well, the paint here is being sold at 4 cents a ball to the players. If they have any problems with the product, they are asked to bring it back immediately and given change of product right there on the spot, no questions asked. The air on the side is nominal. It's $2 for a fill of a tank. We don't care what size tank it is. We are offering a little over $70,000 in merchandise in all the different events that we're conducting here, in the 10-man, in the 5-man, in the individual shoots, duels, target shoots, bike and shoots, 5-man stock, 5-man pump. So I think that's a very tremendous prize purse to work with. The entry fee is probably minimum. It's going to cost them more to get here, to stay here for 3-4 days than it is to actually play the sport. I think that holds true with about any activity that one would play in. Dave.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I feel that we're trying to get the cost down as reasonable as possible, but you still have to pay the overhead, and hopefully in most people's minds we still need to make a profit so we can go out there and do it again.
Well, I guess that's just a slight... You're going to have two different approaches to any sport. It's like in baseball or football, you've got the commercial approach and you've got the club level approach.
Sure.
And you know, at the moment, paintball's not quite sure which way it wants to go, and it can go both ways, I'm sure.
Oh, and I think it will. We're at a crossroad right now. I feel that the maturity is there. Some of us that have been in it for 7, 8, 10, 12 years understand some of the pitfalls that we've learned. I think that I know myself, I'm working on a couple of different proposals with some of the people in this industry that will make it a little bit more professional. It might take it to that next step. This is a club operation, as you mentioned. It's all self-supportive internally, and I think we're about ready to make that step into the next. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm talking to some people right now, and hopefully might be able to generate that in the next 8 to 12 months.
Can you give us any hint?
I can't do that, because as sure as I do that, I jinx myself. You know?
Well, could I hazard a guess to say it involves spectators?
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. And also will involve outside sponsors, large name, corporate type that you see in baseball, football.
Because that's something that hasn't even approached the
Haven't been
paintball
touched.
scene.
No, it has not. I feel I'm going to spend the next 12 months putting that program together.
And this event, do you see this continuing on?
This will continue on, correct. It might not be at this location. It might be in Las Vegas. It might be in Chicago. It might be in Virginia Beach. We might be in Atlanta, Georgia. So my options are still open for me there. We're going to be looking at alternative sites, because I feel personally, I've been here for 7, 8 years. You do have a tendency that needs to be moved for different venue, scenery, acceptance of people trying to get into it, and I think that might be helpful.
One of the successes of the Milano tournament was the adjacent recreational facilities. I thought a lot of people really took advantage of that and made it a true, I guess, vacation.
Double-edged sword. There's no business in the paintball community when they have go-karts and batting cages to draw their money from. So I think who you speak to, I would like that personally, since I own all my gear. But if you're in there and you're trying to compete with the batting ranges and go-karts, and also trying to sell your merchandise, you'd almost like to be the only source of expenditures in entertainment.
Yes, well, certainly the vendors weren't too pleased.
Yeah. And they have to look at that and determine where they want to spend their time and money in promoting their goods.
I guess part of that could be just the location of the vendors' areas in relation to the playing fields.
Is that right? I wasn't there.
It was a reasonable distance away. The actual players' staging area where they parked their cars was on the fields in the centre, and they were surrounded by the fields, and it was actually a reasonable walk or a drive. Not a long walk, but
Yeah.
it's not like here, I guess, so they still do drive down, but they sort of seem to start off in this area.
Yeah, this is where you start. This is where you get everything you need. Then you go out to your fields. But you have to come back here to find out what happened in those fields. So it's worked. It's worked in the past, and we'll continue to make it happen that way.
Well, I can't think of anything else that needs to be covered.
Really?
Oh, I'm sure there's hundreds
Yeah.
of things you could talk about that I'm unaware of. You see,
Well, I spent some time in your country 3 years ago,
I was actually at that tournament.
and I had a very good time, and please tell everybody that I thoroughly enjoyed their hospitality, and looking forward to coming back down there. And I'd like to someday work a program out with you folks down there to bring in these sponsors and bring in some real nice prizes and put on an event down there with somebody like Wealth or anyone that might have the venue to conduct something like this.
I guess the problem is the small number of teams at the moment. The number of teams seems to have diminished slightly. It's that initial enthusiasm is gone, I guess, and a few teams have disbanded, and it's in a process of reorganisation.
What are you playing? 5-man, 10-man, or 7-man, or what?
A mixture of 10 and 5-man. Some tournaments are 5-man and some are 10.
What
5 seems to be easier.
Sure, you can get one car and go. How many teams do you feel like you could draw at one event at any given time?
The South Pacifics, which were the biggest, only got, I think it was 12 teams, 10-man teams last time. Some of the New South Wales tournaments get 15 or 20 teams. But of course they don't have separate categories of novice, amateur or pro because we don't have enough teams. It's open class, all teams enter.
Gotcha. Semis are not allowed. We're
Yeah.
pumped. They are. So they are allowed in the country now?
No, they're not allowed in the country. We've got we've got a locally made one, or 2 locally made ones.
Okay.
But then the tournaments were originally banning the use of illegally imported semi-autos from the US. But now, as long as they're actually registered in the state, in the states that have registration, that is,
What is
they're
the
allowed
most-
to be used.
What's the most predominant gun used?
The most popular gun is the Automag, even though it's not really allowed into the country. There's still a lot of 68 specials, PMI 3s, and there's quite a few of the Australian-made guns now, which is getting close to being quite a good gun. I've got a couple here, I can show you one.
I'd love to see one. Love to see one. Great. Great. I guess that's about everything, huh? We've got, the team counts and all the different divisions, don't you?
Yeah, I'll have to get all that information.
Okay.
I've written some of it down.
Okay,
But,
okay. We have approximately, through gate count, we have approximately 1,100 people here, and that's inclusive of yourself. We have close to 100 staff members through the 5-day course. Those are just some stats for you.
how many teams altogether, roughly?
Different teams, different names of teams, approximately 80 to 90 different teams. We had a few that played in 5 and made a combination to make one team in 10, but I have to say there's about 85 to 90 that were true individual different teams representing different parts of the country. We had Russians here, Brazilians here, Canadians here, Brits here, French here. I had a group scheduled in from Korea and Czechoslovakia, but they had some problems with airlines and visas and applications to get out of country, so they were not able to attend, unfortunately, but hopefully they'll be able to put it together in future years.
See, the one thing that I've been impressed by, as opposed to the Orlando tournament, which I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed it from watching the play there. Because being a member of the press, I could actually go onto the field, whereas everyone else couldn't see anything. So to me, it was very enjoyable to watch that level of play. Here has been the pump class, the stock class, and really, it's just so different. It's a different style of play, and it's very enjoyable to watch. And that's really one of the highlights of coming here as opposed to Orlando.
Well, great, great. I hope you enjoyed yourself here. Tennessee and Nashville is a little bit different than Florida. I hope you enjoy it here.
Well, the lack of transport's been a bit of a problem because in Orlando everything was walking distance because they were lucky at having accommodation about 2 minutes walk from the field. Whereas I guess here everything's a little bit further spread out. But fortunately, I had a lot of offers of lifts from vendors.
Oh, great,
loans.
great, great. I was going to say all you have to do is ask around here. People will be more than happy to help you out. Well, great.